Hello everyone, welcome back to this Dark Souls Beginner Guide series. So last time we went to Undead Asylum and I showed you the Stray Demon but didn't beat it. We beat the Capra Demon and then we went through most of the depths. Now, I said I was going to come back and talk to the Pyromancer and the Sorcerer since we freed them, but I never came back up here.
Share the spells with you. I think you have a knack for it. All you need are the materials. I'll be pleased to help you. Unless you find the magic unsavory. Yeah, wonderful. I'm sure that they'll be of some use, some assistance. Here, first take this.
A flame from the Great Swamp. Now you're a fully fledged pyromancer. Well, let's get started right now.
So, of his equipment here, you can purchase items, which are pyromancies, actual spells. You can modify equipment, which, when you do that, you make your pyromancy flame stronger. It doesn't really say that, but it says flame to flame +1. And I have a few extra souls, so I'm going to do that. It just makes all your pyromancies stronger. So if you want to do more damage with your pyromancies, you come to him, you reinforce your flame, and that's how you do that. In the purchase section, he's got pyromancies, like Fire Orb, Combustion, Flash Sweat, and whatever. Most of the time, you're going to want to use Fireball, and really that's because that's the most versatile pyromancy right now. You could use Fire Orb, which is stronger, but Fireball's cheaper and you get more castings of it, so you might as well use that.
Pyromancy is the art of casting fire. Produce flame, then channel it, just as our ancestors did. The pyromancer must be in tune with nature herself. My home, the Great Swamp, is an abundant store of nature. You will understand one day. It only takes time. Pyromancy has a, well, rather primitive aspect to it. It meshes poorly with advanced culture, and pyromancers are considered rather unsavory. Which is fine, as I never got along with anybody anyway. So, for me, turning undead didn't change a thing. The pyromancer's flame is a part of his own body. The flame develops right along with his skill. When I gave you that flame, I gave you a part of myself. Please take good care of him. The pyromancer's flame is please take good.
So basically, pyromancy is fire magic, and it's pretty simple stuff. There's no fancy effects. Pyromancy pretty much just you throw fire.
Would you care to learn any sorceries? You're clearly talented, and besides, I owe you. Of course, we will require some materials, but I'm happy to teach you some elementary spells. Are you interested?
So if you have 10 intelligence, you can talk to the sorcerer that we freed, and he'll say, hey, here's some sorceries you can learn, and you can talk with him and he'll tell you about stuff too.
Master Logan is a great sorcerer and my teacher. Both of us came to this land as undead, but one day he departed, leaving only a note. I suppose he wished to keep me out of harm's way, but where does that leave me? I have dedicated myself to sorcery, but Master Logan could find no use for me. Yes, the note that Master Logan left. It only said he would travel to Anolondo by way of Sen's fortress. I can only guess that he seeks the regal archives. For Master Logan is a tireless pursuer of wisdom. Wisdom trumps all. Everything else is hogwash. When the curse turned him undead, I'm certain that he only felt it was the perfect chance to visit this land. I only wish that I had his courage. 2 things are required for sorcery. First, you must equip a wand. Second, you must attune a sorcery. Then you will be ready to fire away. Oh, and don't forget to aim. 2 things are then. Oh.
So basically, sorcery is just a little bit different than pyromancy. You also buy spells from him, and everything here is new except for Soul Arrow. That is a default thing that the sorcerer starts with. But there are a lot of sorceries, and they do a lot of different things. Like, they buff weapons so that you can do magic damage with a sword. They create distractions, they can buff your shield, they can have you take less damage from falls, and lots of other stuff. Sorcerer's Catalyst is just basic. Sorcerers start with it, but you can buy one. And then he sells these two rings. The Lingering Dragon Crest ring says that your effects from your spells last longer, and the Bellowing one just makes them do more damage. So if you buff a weapon, the Lingering Ring will make that buff last longer, which is pretty helpful.
Goodbye.
But sorcery is expensive, and it's the most expensive magic in this game. So I'm probably not going to focus too much on actually getting the sorcery, but you can if you want. There is an achievement for getting all spells, so that's something to keep in mind. Same thing for like miracles and pyromancy. And I do have an attunement slot. I just realized that, and I don't have any pyromancies. I specifically leveled up to get a pyromancy and show you guys what that was about. So I'm going to go back to the Pyromancer and buy Fireball. It's the most basic pyromancy other than combustion, and it's probably the most useful for me.
Goodbye then. Come.
So I'm going to rest at the bonfire, and you have to use magic, you have to attune magic. Like, I have one slot, and all I have is Fireball, so I can put Fireball in this attunement slot. And you can read about Fireball. Namely, Pyromancy, the thing about it that makes it special is that it doesn't require any stats to use. You don't need intelligence, and you don't need faith to actually use Fireball. Or any Pyromancy. It's for, like, if you're a warrior class and you have almost no stats in either one, you would like Pyromancy because it's just simple. You equip it, you equip the flame, and then you can cast it. It's nothing too special. I mean, you're throwing fire, which is pretty cool. But it doesn't have any other real qualities. You don't, like, burn people over time. It's just, it does fire damage, and certain enemies are weaker to fire. You can also punch with it to do fire damage, but that's really not worth it. You will notice that it says it has some scaling and intelligence with the flame. That is just for the actual punching. If you were to punch somebody with this glove, these numbers would go up if you have more intelligence, but that's really not something that you're going to do with this thing. You're just going to cast the magic, so I wouldn't worry about that at all. Just in case you were curious and you noticed that, though, it's just for if you were to run around punching people with it. Anyway, I have to get back to the depths because I ran all the way back here to show you this stuff. You're either still in the depths or you ran all the way back up here too. So the goal is to go back to the bonfire in the depths so that we can go do the boss of the depths and then go into the next area. Alright, so back at the depths, I'm down here in this big room, and I wanted to show something that Fireball is really useful for. These slime things have been a pain in the butt to kill, but they are weak to fire. Like, extremely weak to fire. You can kill them pretty easy. Now, Fireball doesn't have that much range, not in this game anyway, so you're gonna have to get kind of close to hit them. But you can kill them in one hit with one Fireball, which is really, really, really nice. Because other than that, you have to hit them with your sword like 5 or 6 times. So I wanted to show that because I show that here before I go back to the bonfire. So even though I said I was going to go to the bonfire, I'm going to start here and just rest. But in the last video, if you're just watching this for the first time, I already went through this area. So really all we're going to do is go straight to the boss, and we're going to beat him, and then we're going to go into the next area and beat that boss. And yeah, I also miss an item in the next area. I'll talk about that later, but basically at the end of this video there's going to be the item with a picture and its stats, and you can look around for it, but I will go get it in a different video. But I wanted to mention that just in case I happen to forget. So, I'm just equipping some blooming purple moss because the next area you might need it. In fact, you'll probably need it. You'll get hit a couple times and you'll need to use it, but I was just thinking about the next area of the game and things that I should have ready to go just in case something happens. So, I can't hit a rat. That bodes well. So, we're gonna run into here. And we go this way. There's nothing back here. I'll show you that there's nothing back here. I guess other than a different view of this area. There's really nothing back there. So we'll go back down these stairs. That is just a Covenant thing. Really, it only happens if you're New Game Plus, and we're not, so I don't really have to worry about it. It's kind of weird to see that happen, but whatever. Anyway, you pick up the heavy crossbow and some heavy bolts right here. That Covenant thing shouldn't happen to you. It might happen somewhere else, but it won't happen there probably. This is Knight Lautrec. We freed him. He's here, you can summon him, and then right here is Solaire. You have to choose one. If you summon Solaire or you summon Lautrec, you only get one, you don't get both. You can only summon either Solaire or Lautrec. So, right here is the boss fight. Alright, so here we have the Gaping Dragon, which is a very unusual boss. It's the only one of its kind, you're never gonna have to fight it again, but it's pretty cool, I think. Kind of freaky looking, but it is a dragon. Considered a dragon, it's just been underground and in this watery underground area for a long time. So the theory is that it mutated into what it is now for whatever reason. So about the boss, the weak point is the head, but it's got this really long tail that if you cut it off, as you should with any boss that has a tail, you get a special weapon. It's kind of hard to hit, so the longer the weapon, the better. Great swords are a better thing for cutting that. You should have plenty of time to get after it. Basically, you're just gonna stay away from the boss right now. Kind of just see what sort of attacks it's doing. You can go for its legs, but you can get hit like that. It's got a pretty big slam range. So really the best thing to do is to probably just stand back and wait for it to either give up on slamming you or whatever, but it's always going to do a roar and then it's going to slam. And usually after it slams, it does a charging attack, which for whatever reason mine didn't do that very much when I fought this. So there's always going to be a roar. You can hit it a few times. I don't know what happened to the video there, but whatever. Basically how this fight goes, if you notice that the boss isn't doing the slamming trick, he's probably trying to hit you with his feet. That is a special attack that rarely happens. This is a, like, vomiting thing. Big area of effect, you get hurt in that, so just stay away. But if the boss isn't doing that slamming attack there, then he's probably trying to hit you with his feet. And typically after he does one of those slams, he likes to do one of these charging attacks, in which right after he does that, you can dodge pretty easy by just running away. You have a good chance of hitting his tail and cutting it off. And so we got the Dragon King Great Axe, which is a strength weapon. And since it's a dragon weapon, you actually get a special two-handed power attack. Dragon weapons in general have that kind of effect. So anytime you get one of those, you're going to have that. Anyway, Gaping Dragon, he's a lot bigger and scarier than he really is difficult. So just try to stay back. You can try Pyromancy or different spells. He should be weaker to lightning. All dragons are weaker to lightning. So if you have Solaire, Solaire will help a little bit. But really, wait for the charging attack. He takes such a long time to get back up after that that you can pretty much just whack on him until he's dead. So right now, he's not slamming, which means he's trying to hit me with his foot. Usually, if he was trying to do the slam, I'm well within range, so he should have done it by then. Like here, I'm close, so he decides to do it. And yeah, the head, you will do a lot more damage, so just try and go for the head if you can, but only probably about 3 or 4 hits, and then back away. And after this charging attack, you can probably get like 6 or 7 in, and yeah. He's not extremely difficult, he's just kind of scary. So take your time, analyze his attacks, and look for that big opening to attack him. And try to cut off the tail, because the Dragon King Great Axe can only be dropped from the Gaping Dragon. So if you don't get it this time, you have to beat the game and get to this point in the next game cycle and try again. So try to get it if you're at all interested. If you're struggling and don't want to die or whatever, and it's either beat him or cut off the tail, then, you know, go ahead and beat him. There's always another time. You can make another character and play this far, or just beat the game and get this far again. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the bonfire just to rest and spend these souls. You get 25,000 souls if you don't summon a phantom to help you. So that's a lot of souls. You can get a few level ups. I think I can get about 4. So I guess 5. Nope, 4. So, you know, spend your souls here, level up, because the next area, gonna be honest, is pretty terrible. Nobody really likes the next area, which is Blighttown. We got a key from the Gaping Dragon that was the key to Blighttown. So nobody really likes it. It's filled with poison. It's meant to screw you over. It's meant to make you fall and drop and die a lot of times. So you're gonna just want to probably watch a couple minutes or whatever if you don't want to die a lot and you're not too worried about spoiling or exploring on your own. You're just probably gonna want to watch a couple minutes and then try it and then watch a couple more minutes, because it's kind of a mess. And, you know, after you've played it enough times, it's not so bad. But as a new player, a lot of players get stuck in Blighttown and they give up because they don't want to do it. It's too hard. They die all the time. They lose interest. So I would just kind of, yeah, stick to watching it for a little bit if you're afraid of any of that. So first thing that happens, you get off of the ladders here, you're going to get rushed by this big guy. Now, you can backstab him and you can parry him, so don't be too afraid to attack him, because he's pretty much just like any other enemy, he's just big. So if you're feeling ballsy, you can go ahead and just stab him a few times like that with a parry, or backstab him a couple times, or just hit him. But really, he's not too bad. He just has a lot of health. He drops 500 souls, so if you are struggling, maybe you feel like you're under-leveled, you can try and kill the big guy a few times. It'll give you a couple thousand souls, and maybe that's the difference between a level up or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and fight a couple of these guys normally, sort of. Or at least, you know what, I'm not going to fight this guy. There is a way, if you look down over here, you can see that there is this platform, which you can jump like I just did. And there's a soul over here that you can pick up, and the big guys aren't so good at getting over here. They try, but they typically just end up down in the bottomless pit, and they die. Now these guys, they're weaker, but they're fast, and they can do a lot of damage really quick. They've got grab attacks, and they've got some range, so you gotta be careful. At the same time, if you go down here like I did, you're gonna have this guy that's shooting darts at us, and these are toxic darts. So there's poison in this game, and then there's toxic. And poison isn't so bad. You can survive being poisoned for a couple minutes, just heal a little bit. Toxic, you are either constantly healing, or you're curing yourself, or you're dying. And there's a lot of these guys around here, but once you kill them, they're gone. You can try and shoot arrows at them, you can try and throw magic, which is going to be a little hard to do, or you can just walk up and hit them a couple times. But that meter right there, I got hit by one dart without blocking and almost got intoxicated. So be really careful and make a mental note that that guy is there, and I will kind of show you where there is, just in case you don't do the drop. That roar and like screech yell thing, jump that they do, that is a grab attack where they will grab you and then they will bite your face for a good 3 or 4 seconds and then throw you on the ground. So not only are you stunned, you also lose health, and then they're ready to go. So as soon as you get back up, you kind of have to block or something. So behind us is a normal way. If you didn't take the jump, you could go back the way we just came up and kill the toxic dart guy. Once you get to about here, I heard some roaring. You probably did too. It's just those guys that I looked over and saw. They're coming over to attack. So the beginning of this area is pretty hectic. I can't even finish a sentence of something I'm trying to talk about before we're getting attacked again and I have to change topics. So once you get past that beginning part, it slows down a little bit. There's only 1 or 2 guys, and while they do some damage, you're not being overwhelmed by 3 big dudes and 4 little guys and a toxic dart dude all at once. Now, there is a danger. If you drop down here, you can continue on the left path, but if you drop down this way, you're actually going to continue to fall. So you're going to want to go down this left path and grab that item. If you fall down like this, you're going to fall where I'm at, and now you're in an area where you don't know what's going on. And there is this red dog demon hound thing that's kind of hard to hit. That's down here. It also breathes fire. There's another one right here. I don't know how I really hit it all those times, but there you go. So now we're in a new area, and we're kind of off the path, so you can get lost pretty easy. This bridge here moves. It's kind of hard to stay on, so I would take it slower. I went a little faster because I know just about how it's gonna move. I would take that slower. And you can see that guy, he's holding a dead body, and he hit that with me once, and I lost more than half my health. So be very careful when exploring Blighttown. after those guys are dead, if you did do that fall, you can climb up that ladder and go to a bonfire. I'm actually going to grab a couple items, like this item here, Blooming Purple Moss Clump. You're going to want to get that, because especially if you didn't buy the Blooming Moss I bought in a previous video from the undead female merchant in the waterway, because those toxic dart guys are pain, and the only way to cure intoxication is by consuming a blooming purple moss clump. There are normal purple moss clumps, but those cure poison, not toxic. And then if you go back to where you fell down, I missed it, there's a humanity. And you can also come back this way if you really want to get those items. You're just going to have to go across the rickety bridge a couple times. So, important thing, I would get that blooming purple moss clump. There's actually 3 of them, so that will help you, especially if you didn't buy any. Now we're going to climb this ladder, and we're going to show up behind the bonfire here. Now, if you went the normal way, you would just go down the ladder I just climbed up, and you could go get that stuff. There's a glowing item up there, so I'm going to show you how to get that, because it's actually a weapon, and it's a one-of-a-kind weapon that you can't get any other way. So we're going to climb up this ladder, and I'm not resting because I don't want to reset the enemies. Got this guy in a jar. As long as he doesn't break out, which he shouldn't unless you break it, he won't attack you. So don't break that. Get that soul, and this is where I fell down. Break that just in case. That's where I fell down and got lost. So really it didn't take us too far off the path. We just got into unknown territory. But there's the fall. So you would continue down that path, grab the soul, go down the ladder, then walk over to the bonfire over there. If none of that interests you, or you're feeling kind of risky, you can go ahead and try and do a running jump off of this wooden spike that's sticking out. I actually miss it like 2 or 3 times in a row, and it's tricky because you really have to jump at like the latest possible second. So this is me falling again. You can see what happens. You get pushed, you kind of hit that other thing, you fall, you lose a lot of health. And if you haven't killed the guys down here, you now have 2 guys to deal with that much health, which is usually another death spot. A lot of people go after that. So I'm going to cut the video to where I actually make the jump. Alright, so when I jump here, you can actually kind of see that it almost looks like I'm falling off of it. And sometimes you can make the jump without hitting the pillar that I hit. Sometimes you hit the pillar, whatever. That is how I usually get the katana, though. I hit that pillar and fall down again. I don't really aim for it, it's just kind of how it works. But like I said, this is a katana, and katana weapons are dexterity weapons. This gets a B in dexterity by default, and it also has bleeding. All katanas have bleeding, to my knowledge anyway. So if you're using the bandit's knife and you're doing that for the bleeding effect and you're kind of liking that, you might try a katana. It swings slower, but katanas also do the same amount of bleed. So you get basically a normal sword that does bleed, except it's dexterity based, not strength based. It's got this sheath horizontal slash for both the one-handed and two-handed power attacks, and it's pretty much the same moveset no matter what you do, either one-handed or two-handed, it doesn't really matter. So it's a cool weapon. Katanas are a lot of fun. They're actually pretty powerful fully leveled up. That B in dexterity might be an A or an S or something when it's fully upgraded, because your stats on your weapons do increase a little bit. So it's pretty good if you're a dexterity user, except it's going to be unupgraded. Now, by default, a katana isn't too bad, but if you really wanted to use that now, I would suggest going and upgrading it, which means dealing with all of the beginning part of Blighttown again if you've rested. So right here I die, because I didn't really think. I saw two guys, I saw a plunging attack, and I'm like, sweet. But I roll spammed, which got me into a bad spot, and I missed the dog, which I thought I could hit, and it did a fire breath attack and killed me. And that is what Blighttown is all about. When you think you've got it, when you think you've got everything under control, you actually kind of screwed yourself over. And yeah, I should have backed up and tried to heal, but there were 3 guys, and chances are I probably would have gotten hit anyway. So it doesn't really help if you don't have a weapon that can basically 2 or 3 hit those guys, which would be a strength weapon. It doesn't really help that everything takes a lot of hits to kill. I mean, even these dogs that you would think would be super weak are actually pretty strong. They do a lot of damage and just have quite a bit of health. Not to mention that they're just hard to hit too. So, yeah, this area can be a pain, and it's totally understandable if you don't like it, because you're not supposed to. Unfortunately, there's really no way to skip this area. You kind of can if you have the master key. You can go directly to the end, but you don't get any useful weapons or items that are up in this part, and you still have to go in here, unfortunately. So if you go through it normally, which I usually prefer to do, just because you get stuff like this, the Shadow set, which is a very lightweight thief-like ninja outfit, and has super high poison resistance, which isn't too bad for this area. And you get Iato, or Iato, which is that katana we picked up, and you can't get those if you go in backwards. Well, you can, but you're gonna have to climb up a bunch of stuff instead of just dropping down like we are. So it's probably harder. So really, it's not worth skipping, even though it sucks, because in the end, you're gonna have to come down here, and there's some pretty good stuff that you'd miss. Plus, if you can deal with Blighttown, you can kind of deal with the rest of the game. Honestly. There's very few areas that are kind of terrible like Blighttown because of the enemies. There is another area that has traps and stuff that are kind of annoying, but that's only if you don't know where they are and whatnot, and I will talk about that probably in the next video, but that's for another time. So if you go around here, you continue to explore. I believe, yeah, it's right around here that you can find the Eagle Shield, which is a great shield. It's a tower shield, and it's got some pretty good defenses for like physical. It does like 95 physical defense, which is pretty good. But the main thing about it is that it's got 70 some stability, I think, and it doesn't weigh very much because it's made of wood. So it's actually a really good great shield to get into if you're looking to get into great shields, because it's lightweight, doesn't require a lot of stats, and has pretty good defenses overall. This is the item I was talking about that I missed. I'm showing it in the top right corner right now. I will show it at the end of the video again, just in case this isn't very readable or you want a bigger picture, but that is kind of what it looks like. And yeah, I'll also provide that at the end so you can see that, and it's right around where I first started talking about it. So if you are feeling kind of comfortable and can walk around and explore a little bit, you should be able to find it. It's not too much of a problem. Like I said before, I will try to come back if I remember and grab that and kind of show it off once I get it. But that won't be in this video. It'll be in some future video. Probably at some point, because we're gonna have to come back down here eventually, but like much later. I'll make a detour and come up here and show you what it's all about. So you can kill these guys here and go down that path, or you can go up this ladder, and this ladder here is kind of long, but you climb it and you get to the top of this tower, and it takes you down a side path. Here's one of the dark guys. That's reason enough to go up this path, because once you kill him, he doesn't come back. So he's been blowing darts at us, kind of. So right there, yeah, you're gonna want to come up here and just kill him, because that'll make your world a little easier in case you die. Now, if you go up this tower path here, you gotta deal with one more dude, which you can try Pyromancy, which it actually does pretty good damage, but I'm gonna focus with my sword. And you want to go down this ladder here. And over here you're gonna see this squid thing, which you might have seen earlier. You can try and cast Pyromancy at it and hit it, which it does 91 damage, which isn't too bad. It's definitely taking down its health. You probably have to use the rest of your castings for that. You can also hit it, which I think that said like 74 or something. It's kind of hard to hit, and if you're not careful, you can actually fall underneath it there, and it can attack you. So in this way, you're safe for now. Just don't get too greedy with your hits. And you can kill it that way without really having to worry too much, because it's kind of a pain to kill a different way. But if you do that, then you can get Power Within, which is a Pyromancy. And it's a special Pyromancy that you can only get right there. And what it does is you activate it with your Pyromancy Flame, and you lose some health over time, but your attack damage is pretty significantly increased, actually. Now, as a side note, you can fall down like I did and grab the whip, another thing that you can't get anywhere else, but you can get it here. If you do that, you're gonna end up down here. If you don't do that, you'll eventually take the ladders down, and you'll find yourself down here anyway. So, kind of back to Power Within. It's a pretty cool Pyromancy. There's nothing else like it. So grab it and try it sometime if you're interested. It shouldn't require any stats. And give it a try. See if you like it. It might be something you add to your spells. So anyway, we're going to continue down the path now. And I can hear a dart guy, and I also know that there's a dart guy around here. You can hear the darts hitting the wood here. You actually kind of see the wood coming off when he hits it. So if you block the darts, you're going to still take some toxic damage, but not nearly as much as you would if you didn't block. And you should pretty much come this way anyway, because back here is an armor set, the Wanderer set, and you get that and a falchion, which is like a scimitar. So basically, if you saw the Wanderer class in the beginning and you're like, wow, he looks really cool or whatever, that's his gear. Because like I said, you can get most of this gear pretty early in the game. Anything that you see for starting classes and stuff, you can get that pretty early if you know your way around and whatnot. The Wanderer set is easily missed, and nobody likes Blighttown, so I really want to put emphasis that that is there. Don't forget about that, because I know people who have played this game. I've done playthroughs with various people who wanted that or wanted the weapon for whatever reason and just missed it and had to come back here. So once you get the Wanderer set, you can kind of just fall into the swamp and run past things, and if you hang right of where you kind of where we were coming down, I guess it was right from my perspective, but if you kind of hang right, you go into this tunnel, I think it's important to kindle this bonfire too. We've been kindling pretty much every bonfire we've been going to, but for a new person, new beginner playthrough, you're going to want to probably kindle most bonfires that you come across, because most areas are going to be pretty difficult your first time. There's really never going to be a time where you're like, man, I regret having this extra healing. Because aside from a flask, there's really no way to heal yourself, I guess, other than humanity, but you don't want to lose that if you die. So if you go back there, you can grab a dragon scale, which dragon scales are used to upgrade dragon weapons, and they're also used to turn in for a covenant called Path of the Dragon, which is pretty cool actually. It's just that dragon scales themselves aren't really easy to obtain. Plus, dragon weapons, when fully upgraded, do more damage like every other weapon, but in the long run, it's almost not worth it. Because they really don't have any scaling. So once you have the bonfire down here, you're pretty much good to go. You can explore this swamp. The enemies aren't too difficult. There's really nothing too bad. Now, you may have followed a guide or something, or saw somebody's shortcut somewhere that said, hey, you can go in Blighttown backwards if you have the master key, and you can skip all of that wooden rickety crap that I just kind of had to go through and showed you through. And that's true. Now, if you went that way, you're going to be down here. You're going to get that bonfire that we just got. And this is pretty much as far as you're going to want to go. Because if you go really any further than that, you're climbing some ladders, you're going to have to deal with toxic dark guys, and you're going to have to deal with all the crap we just went through, except it's going to be harder because you can't fall. You're actually going to have to grab a ladder and climb, and that's more possibility of getting hit because you can't really defend yourself while climbing, and it's just more possibility of dying, and it's a pain. So if you went in backwards and you don't care about any of that stuff for some reason, then you know, that's good. You can stay down here. Everything you need is down here. That's all you really need to worry about. For those that have been following along so far and didn't take the shortcut, which I didn't even talk about, so if you're completely confused on that, great, because I didn't really talk about it too much, but just kind of follow along, even if I get sidetracked. Follow along here. You can get some pretty interesting items down here that really, they don't show up too much in other Souls games. Really, specifically, I'm thinking of one weapon that's down here that doesn't show up in another game, but whatever. Anyway, so we're down here and we're killing some slugs. Make sure you keep an eye on your health and your poison meter. You can't really avoid being poisoned. You can get as much anti-poison stuff and wear the most poison-resistant gear you can find. In the end, it's not really worth it because you're more than likely going to get poisoned anyway. And just increasing your poison resistance is going to make you have a bigger poison meter. So when you get poisoned, it's going to take longer to get rid of. And if you keep using the moss clumps and stuff to cure yourself, you're going to walk about 10 feet and then you're going to get poisoned again. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I guess I probably should have mentioned this a lot earlier when we first got down here. But if you're finding yourself struggling moving through the swamp, it's probably very likely that that's because you're not wearing the rusted iron ring, which I have just been wearing this whole time. I put it on in the depths and showed you, like, oh, before and after, my guy's barely walking through water and now he's walking through it just fine. Well, this swamp is like deep water. You will trudge through it really slow if you're not wearing it. So it was really important last time that we grabbed the rusted iron ring because it makes your world a lot easier down here. And you don't want to have Blighttown be a pain, more of a pain than it already is. Because this part isn't so bad, like I said. And so hopefully you grabbed that. If you didn't, for whatever reason, you're going to be going a little slower. You can try and unequip some of your gear, but for the most part, you're just going to be trudging through here pretty slow. These slug enemies, only 100 souls each, but they have a chance of dropping large Titanite shards and green Titanite shards. Now, the real difference between them is not too complicated, but basically large ones make normal weapons stronger, so a +5 weapon to +6, but you need to give Andre the ember we found in the depths, which I cover at the end of this video, so if that interests you, you can watch that there. And green Titanite shards make a magic weapon, or a fire weapon, or really any elemental weapon. It makes those stronger. And without getting too much into elemental weapons and how you make those, just know that that's what those do, and that in the future you'll be able to break them down or use them appropriately for your weapons and stuff. So, if you were following along, we entered an area called the Great Hollow. Now, this is not the way you're supposed to be going right now, but there is a ring down here that's very useful. What it does is, when you put it on, your stamina goes up a little bit faster. Your stamina recovery is just better. It's kind of in a painful spot to get to. It's not too bad, but you can fall and die if you're not careful. So I wouldn't rest at the bonfire up that I passed, because if you do that, then you're going to reset all the enemies in Blighttown. You're going to have to trudge through the swamp and kill more enemies and whatever. But if you die down here, you're going to have to run all the way back here. So really, that's your call. I'm not going to get it right now. So making this fall is kind of a pain, because there's some wood that's in the way, and they really want your character to fall down the hole like I just did. Now, you should survive, because I'm guessing that you have close to the same amount of health that I do, and I still had a good portion left over. If you miss that fall and you have to come back up, that's fine. Just try to follow the path I'm following. And up here is the top again. We can't see the item from this area, so we'll go down a little bit more and try to look. There's the item a little bit. Now, try to aim for, like, the bark of the tree here, and then drop down. Don't try to make it one drop, because I find that to be easier. Then once you got the ring, you can pretty much leave and just run and jump out of here, or go down and go up the tree route. Or you can homeward bone. If you didn't die and you didn't rest at that bonfire, you can homeward bone back to this spot, which is really nice. So I'm going to trade this blue tearstone ring for the Cloranthy Ring, because I want more stamina regeneration. It's pretty handy. So before putting on the ring, my stamina regenerates like that, which isn't too bad. It's actually pretty fast, and oftentimes I get rid of that ring later because I want that ring slot for something else. But here's after putting it on, and you know it works if you have the green glow and you notice your stamina is going up a little faster. If you happen to have 2 rings or an armor piece that is applying an effect to your character to make him glow or something, sometimes you won't see the green glow from the Cloranthy Ring, or you won't see the glow from the other ring. That doesn't mean that they're not working, it just means that the game can only display one effect at a time, and so they're covering each other up. This is a scripted invasion. This is a computer. You're gonna get invaded here if you're human, which is fine. She's not too difficult, because she uses the butcher knife, has like no armor, and really you can parry her, or you can just wait for her clumsy attacks to miss. The only problem you have is if you have other enemies that are kind of attacking you at the same time. So killing her isn't too bad. I got 8,000, almost 9,000 souls from that. kill this fly thing. These flies also constantly regenerate, so if they keep attacking you, that's why. Pick up some humanity, both soft and hard humanity, and picked up her butcher knife, which isn't too bad. Now, if you're completely done with Blighttown, you just want to be out of here, go somewhere else, level up your character, whatever, you take the lift up to the right here. If you're going to continue with the boss fight and everything that I'm going to do, then you're going to go this way. Just follow my dude. We're going to go off to the left of this giant weird mound of white whatever, and we're going to go over here because there is a strength weapon here. These golem guys, they now have boulders, which doesn't really make them too much more difficult. They just have different attacks. Like, they'll throw the boulder, which does a lot of damage, but once they do that, they have to rest for a few seconds and grab another boulder. Like this. So, you could throw your pyromancy at them and burn them that way. You can shoot some arrows or crossbow bolts or whatever. You can run up and backstab them. Just be careful of attacks like that, where they try to roll over you. And try to take one out, or try to hide. Use walls to your advantage so that the boulders don't hit you. And take one out. They drop dung pies, which really aren't that useful. But you can read up on what those do. They pretty much just apply a poison effect to enemies, but just a little bit to yourself too. It's actually toxic, but you'll probably never really use them. So, anyway. One guy, he's not too bad. You can just avoid these guys altogether. It's not like if you don't kill them, then you can't beat the game or anything. So, I'm going to fight them a little bit, just so you can see how they attack and what they do and how much health they have. 500 souls apiece, no different than the other ones, just have a giant boulder instead of a club. Now, I'm going to run back to the bonfire, rest, get my flasks, you know, get rid of this poison and whatnot. Probably spend the souls from killing the invader, because you don't want to lose the souls. Actually, you know, I don't think I do. I think I actually will leave them and then spend them after the boss fight. So, if you have the souls, I would recommend spending them, because you may not make it through the boss fight the first time, and then you've got trapped souls, which that isn't fun. So, run this way and run towards the mound thing. You're gonna see 3 boulder guys there. They're pretty intimidating, except if you run over to the right side of this mound here, then you really only get one after you. You might get another one, but if you keep sprinting, you can outrun them. It's gonna sound scary, but for the most part, you should be safe. And then once you enter this, then you're pretty safe, because they can't fit through the door up there. And I'd get rid of your poison, because there's nothing else that's poison down in this area. And there's a boss fight coming up, so you don't want to have poison and be fighting the boss. Don't kill those weird mutated dudes. And you can summon Man-Eater Mildred after you defeat her for this boss fight. Sometimes she wins the fight for you, sometimes she just goes really stupid and dies. So, whatever you want. If you want to summon her, cool. If not, it's going to be kind of difficult, but you can do it. I believe in you. You're also going to want to apply something with fire defense, either a better fire defense shield or better fire defense armor, because this boss does a lot of fire damage. So here we have Chaos Witch Quelaag. And obviously she is half human, half spider, which in Greek mythology there was a person called Arachne that was half human, half spider, and she had her whole story. But basically, her trick is that she doesn't really take extra damage anywhere except for her human torso, which obviously is pretty hard to hit with anything that doesn't have extremely long range, like a halberd. So if you're using a halberd, great. You're probably going to have a pretty good chance of hitting her there if you do a certain attack, because not all attacks do that. Halberds do like stabs, but running attacks, jumping attacks, maybe you might get her that way. For her, you're just not going to do a lot of damage, and she's going to do a lot of damage to you, which is a great combination, because unless you have extreme fire defense, those attacks can take probably about half of your health away. Her sword attacks, though, are easy to dodge, so while she does do pretty good damage to you, she most of the time misses. And the main time to attack her is when her spider torso is doing the huge lava stream, which I didn't really get to show, but you can see the semicircle of lava that's on the floor. And that's really the main hazard in this fight, is having to deal with the lava that she leaves everywhere. Sometimes she'll do only lava attacks, and you can get yourself trapped in a circle of lava pretty easy with no way of escaping. It does disappear after, I think, like 20 or 30 seconds, so it actually lasts a pretty long time. Just try and stay out of it, and try to get her to do the semicircle lava attack, but somewhere where there's a lot of room for you to maneuver, because the lava actually does pretty good damage to you too. And other than that, her attacks really aren't that bad to dodge. The long stab has longer range than you think, but a simple roll right or left will get you out of that if you do it at the right time. And a roll backwards for the horizontal swing will get you out of that pretty much all the time. Other than that, you just gotta watch out for her attacks, because she does the fire, she does the sword swings, but occasionally her spider body will do something different, like this, which if you get hit with that, that does a lot of damage. It also doesn't have the most range, so you probably won't get hit with it if you're far enough away, but it does a lot of damage if you do get hit with that. So try to stay back, try to stay like close to medium range, but don't like constantly stay under her, because you can get hit by that kind of attack and it will do a lot more damage. Just look for like a pat on the head, her spider torso like kind of backing up a little, and then another pat on the head and it'll do the semicircle blast. She always gives it a pat on the head when it's going to do lava. So depending on how long it takes for the spider to actually breathe the lava, kind of determines what kind of lava attack. She can do like sudden lava attacks, like if you're to the side, the spider head can turn its head to the side and shoot lava. So just be careful. She also does an area of effect attack, which is that right there. And that will pretty much one-shot you. It's very powerful, and only a good magic defense shield, like the crest shield that we have, can block that. You can also just back up, but its range is pretty big. And right there, I screwed up a roll, lost more than half my health. Now be careful if you're trying to pass her, like I was there. That's pretty risky, actually, because if she does the area of effect blast, you're pretty much dead. So try to pick a time, and if you're going to go for it, go for it. If you're going to commit to getting behind her and dodging a certain attack, then commit, because any wavering can be the difference between life and death in this fight. But once you get her attacks down, and you can kind of see, most of these attacks will just miss you by backing up or rolling to the side. It's nothing too special. She doesn't really put a ton of pressure on you. So your stamina shouldn't really be an issue in terms of consumption. So you should have plenty of time to back up and put your shield down and get your stamina back. And if you have ranged attacks other than Pyromancy, so Pyromancers are going to kind of struggle if you've been relying on that. If you have, like, Sorcery or Lightning, use that to your advantage, because she's not completely resistant to those. They might not do a ton of damage themselves, but this is one fight where Sorcerers or Clerics that have some sort of offensive attack would benefit. Even people that use bows would benefit in this. So, really, melee users and Pyromancers, you're going to be at a little disadvantage here. But specifically Pyromancers, if you've been relying on your fire magic to get you here, you're going to struggle a lot. There's another AoE. And so really, it's just looking for this breath attack. You can get in, do like 300 damage, get out. You can also hit her at other attacks. The last thing you want is to go in for a hit, like sprint at her or something, be out of stamina, and she does the area of effect when you're this far. So play it safe, and you shouldn't struggle too bad. Also, don't forget that there's Maneater Mildred outside the boss fog, and if you want to summon her for this fight, you definitely can. She will help a lot. She doesn't have the most health, but sometimes she can win the fight for you. I'm stuck for whatever reason, but there you go. And defeating her, you get 20,000 souls, and you get the Soul of Quelaag, which is our first boss soul, I think. Which, boss souls can be used to make boss weapons. So, we'll get there at a later date. But do not consume the boss soul. It can say you can, but don't do it. You're probably going to want the weapon more than you're going to want, like, the 5,000 souls. And back where she came out here is your second Bell of Awakening. Which now we're actually getting an extended cutscene here. Before, we just rang the bell and it went in the distance and kind of faded to black. Well, here, if you ring your second one, it doesn't matter if you do the underground one before or if you do, you know, whatever order. There's only two. So if you do the one that we just did last, or you do the one up in the tower to the left there last, it doesn't really matter. It will open up the door. It's not like you screwed up or anything. And you're going to see that. And so that giant just opened up a gate. Now, where exactly? It's actually right next to where Andre's bonfire is, where the Onion Knight was. So, it's actually right over there, and we're going to go over there at the end of this video, which we're nearing. But first, I want to show you this hidden bonfire that's down here for you to be able to cash in your souls without dying and all that.
What have we here? Are you a new servant?
Say yes.
But you have no egg that... no matter. Go along and have audience with our fair lady. I pray that you will mind your manners.
If you say no, you can still get back here, but you have to get infected with the same parasite that's infecting him. And you walk in here, and you're going to notice another Arachne person. And this is just known as the Fair Lady. That's all they call her. Now, obviously, she is sick and, like, rotting away. And this is actually a covenant. You can join this group, and what they do is they kind of try to dedicate themselves to curing her condition. So if you join this covenant, you would take your humanity and you would give it to her. And if you try talking to her, she doesn't say anything. But she can reinforce your Estus flask, and she can also you can also enter the covenant and give her humanity and rank up in that. But if you started with the old witch's ring, if you've been following me exactly as things have been going, you will have this.
Quelaag, my dear sister.
And that allows you to talk to her.
Quelaag, what is it? Quelaag, my dear sister. The eggs, it hurts. They've gone still. I am afraid it may be too late. I am so sorry, dear sister. I'll be fine. I have you, dear sister. But promise me that you will take care of yourself. I'll be but the... Goodbye, Quelaag. It was so very nice to chat.
So, a little bit of backstory there. Basically, there was an infection or a plague of some sort, and she takes it upon herself to try and help people by absorbing this infection so that they don't get infected themselves. She does this out of the goodness of her heart, and so she's very, very ill, and there's a covenant dedicated to actually trying to cure her or at least ease her pain, which apparently to do that you give her humanity. It's also important to know that if you talk with her, she thinks you're Quelaag, which is the boss we just killed. So at this point, you should probably feel pretty bad, because all you were doing was walking in here, and her sister came out to defend her, keep threats away from her, and is taking care of her, and you just killed her caretaker. So, you know, good job. But really, there's nothing you can do. You have to kill her, unfortunately. So, that is a covenant. I want to point it out, but you also want to rest at that bonfire. Very important. Otherwise, you have to run back down into Blighttown later the long way. If you rest at that bonfire, you'll actually be able to have a shortcut that'll get you here almost instantly. So, you want to get that. You can't unlock that shortcut now, but you will later, and you'll thank me later. So, let's get out of Blighttown. Let's try and actually get out of this area sometime here. Because once you defeat that boss, you're good. You can leave Blighttown. There's really not much else to do down here. I will come down probably at later points to show you various hidden things that you didn't know. And they're not here right now, otherwise I would show you right now. But basically, there are NPCs that are pretty important that end up down here for different reasons. And you'll have to come down here, or you'll want to come down here and talk with them or whatever to continue their quest line. But for now, we've done what we can do in Blighttown. So now we just gotta leave. And leaving, I guess this is still part of Blighttown. There are a couple more things we can get, so I can't say you're completely done with Blighttown, but you're on your way out. You're just grabbing things as you go. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have an easier time, though. There is one obstacle that is kind of a pain that you don't have to do to leave, but you can make your healing flasks stronger if you do go and get this item, which is pretty important. So ride this lift and try and get it to the point where you're a good couple feet above this wooden platform, and then you walk off, because if you keep on that, it's going to fling you off of it. You're going to fall to your death because it falls over, or rather it flips over, and you'll be on the underside going down, which means you're falling and you're dying. So get off of it. If you need to go back down, wait for the lift to turn around a platform for you, and then get back on, and you can go down that way. If you went in through the back way into Blighttown, you've already passed all this. And these stupid bugs are really annoying because they're hard to hit. Let's try not that. Come on. Nope. Walk over here, wait for it to fly a little lower. Alright. I'll take it. So, things to do. You can see that there's a couple red dogs, and there's another toxic dart guy. There's actually like 5 of them in that room. And we're gonna go kill them right now. So, equip some blooming moss clumps, if you have any, or try to get to a point where if you were to die and not recover your souls and stuff, that you'd be okay with that, because you can see we're just getting pelted with darts right now, and we're intoxicated. It's doing a lot of damage. If you have range stuff, that makes this a little bit easier. You can use Pyromancy to pretty much one-shot these guys. And only blooming moss clumps can cure you of toxic. Very, very important you know that, because otherwise, you're going to be trying to cure yourself for the next 40 minutes, and nothing's going to happen. So, kill that guy, and after that, there's only, like, one more guy. He's in this corner, which you can pretty much avoid all his darts and then block. Get behind him, kill him, that's done, and we shouldn't be running into any more dart guys anytime soon. Now, we can go down and deal with those red demon hound things that breathe fire, but we're going to go over here instead and grab this soul here. And then we're going to leave and go grab an armor set, which you have to walk across this tree root that I was going to go across before we got hit with darts. So, I'm actually going to go backwards just a little bit, but now we're not going to get hit with toxic darts as we're trying to walk around over here, which is much better. So, try to follow this tree root. It can be a little slippery, so take your time if you have to. Watch out for these bigger bug enemies that are falling. Walk over here. On this body, you'll pick up a crimson set and a catalyst called the Tin Banishment Catalyst, which actually doubles as a spear. So you can poke things with it, and you can cast sorceries with it. Speaking of sorcery, you can get the Remedy Sorcery, which cures you of, like, all things. I can't remember if it does curse, but it cures you of toxic, it cures you of poison, it cures you of bleeding, it cures you of anything else that could be annoying. So, that's a pretty powerful sorcery. Unfortunately, you get it at the end of the area in the game that you probably want to use it. But it is pretty handy. So, if you're a sorcerer and you happen to die right about now, for whatever reason, you can equip that and you'll have a little bit easier time getting up here and not dealing with poison. It's kind of a shame that they put it all the way up here because it would be really useful through this area. But that's why we have New Game Plus, where you can take your character that you're working on and just go through next time with that sorcery already. So follow this tree route. Don't go to where that message is or anything like that. Instead, climb up this ladder here. We're going to go back up and into the dart room. And we're going to go ahead and kill these fire demon hounds. Now, it's pretty annoying because there are a lot of them down here. There's like 3 in this big square. I'm going to try and hit it with something. Hopefully something not fire, which I happen to have a throwing knife. Actually, I have 10, which is good. Hit it once. Doesn't do a lot of damage, but it does run over to this corner, which means plunging attack. I happen to know that there's 2 there. Well, the one ran over and that there was one already there, which means I've killed 3 of them. And there's 4 more to go. Now, unfortunately, in this part over here, I'm fighting these guys. I almost kill those 2 over there, and I end up dying. And I actually end up dying shortly after that because I fell somewhere. So I lose my souls, and I lose my humanity, which is a pain and whatnot. So just be very careful, and I will cut the video to where I actually get this item behind them. So here I am, finally killing my last dog, and you pick up a Firekeeper soul, which we picked up one of those earlier. I didn't actually use it yet, so now we have 2. And 2 souls means you can actually, if you go to a Firekeeper, like the fair lady that we were just at, unfortunately I didn't think about it, but if you go to her or any other Firekeeper, you can upgrade your flask from Estus Flask to Estus Flask +1 if you have 1, and +2 if you have 2, and so on. There's only, I believe, 5 in the game your first time through, so you can only get your flask up to +5. But in the next game cycle you can pick up a couple more, and I believe you can get it up to like +7 or something. Every game differs on how you upgrade Estus flasks, so sometimes I forget and sometimes I'm not entirely right. But yeah, so it's very important that you get it, because you're gonna thank me later for getting it, even though it kind of sucked probably to try and get it now. So we're gonna climb up the rest of these ladders and get this chest. Very important. You get the key to New Londo Ruins. Now you're gonna see the giant circle that we just made that you can pretty much skip entirely if you have the master key, and you might be just a little upset because we went through a lot. We did get a lot of stuff that you can't get anywhere else, but yeah, you might be just a little upset because there's really nothing you can do about it unless you're a thief that has the master key or you choose the master key gift. So run across this plank here and make your way over to this body and this door. Boom, open this up. Now you're in New Londo, which is this dark city area here. And this is where the magic blacksmith is, which I went and covered in like the second video. And be very careful. I almost fell right there because usually the elevator is down, but it may not be, and you can fall to your death right there, and then you have to climb yourself out of Blighttown again. I know, it's wonderful. So remember, this lift actually takes you all the way up to the bottom of Firelink Shrine, and that's your home base. That's where all your people are, and everything's gonna be okay. So if you have the master key, you do not need the key to New Londo Ruins that we picked up at the end of Blighttown. You can walk in through the bottom of Firelink Shrine, go down the elevator, and go through the door by unlocking it with the master key and go on Blighttown the backwards way. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, if you didn't kill that Law Trick guy that we freed, who left an evil laugh once we freed him, your bonfire will be out. Your firekeeper will be dead, and that's what causes the bonfire to go out, which means no resting, which means if you still die, you don't start at Firelink, which is kind of a pain, but it's a pain for now, which we will be able to fix later. Just try not to die right now. If you killed him, that's not a problem. You can rest here, whatever. But now you're going to notice that after you ring your second bell, this is Kingseeker Frampt, and you can talk to him, and he'll tell you more about the lore and stuff about this game.
Hello. Was it you who rang the Bell of Awakening? I am the Primordial Serpent, Kingseeker Frampt, close friend of the great Lord Gwyn, chosen undead, who has rung the Bell of Awakening. I wish to elucidate your fate. Do you seek such enlightenment? Very well. Then I am pleased to share. Chosen undead, your fate is to succeed the great Lord Gwyn, so that you may link the fire, cast away the dark, and undo the curse of the undead. To this end, you must visit Anor Londo and acquire the Lord Vessel.
Alright, so he just revealed some story. Basically, to undo the curse of the undead, you're going to have to take the place of Great Lord Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, who is talked about all the time. In the beginning intro, the lady was like, yeah, he threw his lightning and peeled apart the stone scales of dragons. So, you're going to have to succeed him, which means take his place. So, how you do that, I'm not going to reveal, but that's what you got to do. But next, he's going to tell us what we got to do to get there.
Those who seek the realm of lords must brave Sen's fortress, a deadly house of traps. Many have gone before you, but none have returned. Fate has chosen you, but proceed with caution.
So, we're gonna have to go through this place called Sen's Fortress to get to the Realm of Lords, aka Anor Londo, is what he calls it. Now, you could be confused because in the beginning of the game, the narrator lady said the Realm of Lords, or the Land of the Lords, called Lordran, which is this whole area. And Anor Londo is a city in Lordran that the gods sit in. Now, you're going to notice your cleric people over here. They're going to leave, basically. That's what he's saying. You can talk with him. You can get some miracles yet.
Yes, I know.
You can buy them. They're still just as expensive as they were before. And you can get whatever ones you don't have right now. If you don't get them now, you will be able to get them later. So don't worry about it.
Those young knights are her old schoolmates, but I'm not sure what to make of them. I'm afraid they may be a bad influence. Rhea is the younger.
And you can talk to these guys over here and see what they say. I guess this guy just kind of mumbles. That's a powerful skill to have on a pilgrimage. There you go.
What have we here? You look awfully raggedy. Times are grim. The least you can do is look sharp. Don't you dare meet my lady like that. You might scare her off for good.
So that guy's worried about clothes.
Don't suppose we can help, though. We accompany my lady on her righteous mission. It is quite a chore, but I'm stuck with her. And Nico, too. I can't very well abandon them now.
You are undead as well. Then we've no time to fraternize. I have my mission and you no doubt have yours. We must not let this curse overcome us. Did I not explain the urgency of our tasks? Or are you so uncouth as to lack such judgment? By the looks of you, I should think not. Did I not explain?
Oh, it's you. The catacombs aren't exactly my idea of a good time, but what can one do? Rary or not. Oh, it's you. We're to leave momentarily. The catacombs aren't exact. What can one do? Rary or not.
He says that weird because the cleric chick, she actually says Varier Nox, not Warrior Nox. Later, you'll be able to talk with her again and whatever. Yeah, in case you didn't catch it, she's like, oh, you are like, basically, what uncouth means is uncivilized, uncultured, and all that, and you're not really respecting their, I guess, traditions or whatever, and you don't have the proper judgment to see that hindering her by even talking to her excellence is going to cause a major issue with them curing the curse, which is just kind of bull because you know how to cure the curse. But they're going on this pilgrimage thinking that they can help somehow. But yeah, basically she's like, hey, get away from me. I don't like you. And you're not that great anyway. So whatever. But keep in mind that you haven't rested at any bonfire since the one down in Blighttown. So resting here is very important because you don't want to end up dying and going to Blighttown again. Now, here is the end of the video part where I was talking about upgrading your weapons to +6 and stuff even higher than before. So you go ahead and talk to Andre.
That's a fine ember you have there. I could smith some mighty weapons with one of those. Why not lend it to me? Magnificent! You won't be disappointed. I can hardly wait to get started.
And now you can go to modify equipment, which remember, there's reinforcing and there's modifying or ascending a weapon. Only blacksmiths can ascend, and you can only give that ember to Andre. And he will ascend your +5 sword, or whatever you have, into a +6 version. Which, you can see it says the C scaling goes up a little bit into a slightly better blue. You also get more physical damage, so I go from 120 to 128. And then he's also got Raw, which drops your scaling, so you go from +54 to +48 in my case, but it increases your physical base damage from 120 to 138, which is cool, but in the long run, again, Raw is not the way to put your weapon, because you want your scaling. In the end, scaling on your weapon is very important, and so when your character near the end of the game has 30 or 40 strength and is getting no scaling from that, no extra damage, it might be great if your weapon does 200 damage or 400 damage or whatever, but with no scaling, you're not going to get that +50, 60, or in some cases like 120 extra damage. And that's where a normal weapon, like some swords, can outclass your 400 damage weapon because you have this plus extra damage that you're getting. So, anyway, that's my take on Raw. I'm going to pop some humanity because nobody wants to look at an ugly, hollowed person at the end of the video. I'm going to reverse my hollowing here. And that's pretty much going to be the end of this video. Next time we'll go into Sen's Fortress and clear that, and probably a little bit into Anor Londo, because that's the area after that. And I guess I'm stuck here. This is a glitch if you're running at like 60 frames. I think it's the 60 frames. Sometimes your dude won't get back up. Could just be a PC issue, but yeah. So I guess since I can't get up, I'm going to fade into the picture of the eagle shield I promised. There's the stats. You can find that on the wiki. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and until next time, guys.